We either have people, it's interesting, either people come to us, a lot of people come to us are super type A's, so they could be exercising out like a lot. So exercising a lot. Or we have people that are more like, okay, we need to get some movement going. Don't really seem to have people in the middle. It's more they're extreme or nothing. But really, for fertility, like we usually recommend. Hey everyone, welcome to Fab Fertile TV. I'm Sarah Clark.
And I'm Brandy Bosco.
Awesome. Excited to share with you how our approach, our functional medicine approach to fertility. And today we're going to be digging into hormones and how we look at things completely differently. So really, you may come to us, and most people come to us with either like myself, with premature ovarian failure, diminished ovarian reserve, low AMH, high FSH, unexplained infertility, fibroids, endometriosis, PCOS. Typically, we get a lot of people coming to us because I've shared my story about premature ovarian failure. They come to us with low ovarian reserve and diminished ovarian reserve and things like that. So, but we just wanted to share with you how our approach and how it's different. So we look at your diet, we look at your sleep, we look at exercise, we look at your stress reductions, and also we look at supplements as well. But so maybe Brandy just kind of share with us a little bit about diet and how that impacts fertility. Because I think that's kind of a thing that people are like, diet, really? I don't really think, I think people know to eat clean. And I would say the majority of people that come to us, they're like, hey, I have a clean diet. And we just sort of flip that one kind of on its head a little bit. So.
Yeah, and I mean, a clean diet can mean different things to different people. So people will come to us trying many different diets: vegan, paleo, keto, Mediterranean diet, Whole30. I mean, and we have some people who are just doing like the regular standard American diet. And the reason diet has such an impact, there's a lot of reasons, and we can definitely do a whole show just on this. But the biggest thing that we look at with regards to testing is we look at food sensitivities. They're becoming more and more common in this day and age. And when people think of food sensitivities, they think of that standard allergy test. They go to their doctor and they kind of get that prick on their skin to see if they have an immediate reaction. And while that is one part of a food sensitivity, that's more of an allergy. A sensitivity, the way we look at it, is something that causes your immune system to have some sort of reaction, and it may not be immediate. It might be an hour later, it might be a day later, 2 days later, 3 days later. And so a lot of times we don't notice these symptoms, and we just think that they're normal. So that headache that we get all the time, or the joint pain, or the phlegm in the back of our throat that just seems to constantly be there. Skin issues. So, things like psoriasis, acne, those are all what we would consider a delayed reaction. Other things like sleep disturbances. So if you have a hard time falling asleep, that could be related to your food. If you have anxiety or mood changes, I mean, those all are related to food. And very often when we do work with our clients and they do an elimination diet, they'll take things out, and when they bring it back in, they'll start noticing these little tiny nagging things that they thought were normal, but they actually weren't. They were a symptom of the food that they were eating. And so when we're eating foods our body's sensitive to, it's causing a stress response. And that stress response is causing a miscommunication between all of our systems. So we have a system called the HPA axis, which is hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. And it also talks to our ovaries. And then for men, it talks to the testes. And so if there's a miscommunication anywhere in that system, then things are going to become out of balance. And so any type of stressor can kind of cause like a disruption in the communication. And so everybody's not getting the proper signal. And so your hormones aren't going to be produced properly. And so a lot of people come to us with these little symptoms, and they have hypothyroidism, or, they have some other autoimmune disorder, or skin issues. And it's a disruption in that communication caused by stress, and food definitely can have a big impact on it. And so we look at it differently than just the diet that you're eating. We look at it, is it the diet that's right for you? And the foods that you're eating, even though they're healthy, are you reacting to them?
Yeah, exactly. Because, I think some people might have tried gluten-free or dairy-free or maybe vegan but really it's getting the diet that's right for you. And with the elimination diet, we have people take out, so dairy, gluten, corn, soy, peanuts, and eggs, you take it out for 10 days, then you systematically reintroduce it. And so that part, that reintroduction part is key because most people, when they take those foods out, most people feel like super good. But then when they bring it back in, sometimes we just kind of like, oh, wait, we're not even going to journal about it. We might just bring it back in. We start with having a pizza, where it's like, let's bring it back in systematically. So you start with bring back in corn and you're journaling, how do I feel? We've had people bring back in corn and, it makes their asthma flare up, bring back in dairy, and it's hard when you have some of your favorite foods. You're like, oh, the dairy, my cheese, which, people love cheese. That could be, causing the phlegm that's you're having every morning, or gluten, maybe the brain fog, or the stomach digestion issues. So it's really when you have that food journal or diary, to really we literally 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, when people have forgotten how they felt, we bring it back and go, oh wait, remember when you told us this? Oh,
Yeah.
remember when you had that little rash, and then now it's like back again. So it's just really like our whole thing is to be able to tune into your body to see how diet in this case, impacts your health. And so for myself, I'm dairy free, gluten free, and corn free. And Brandy, you're celiac, so obviously gluten free. Are you dairy free? I'm not sure.
Dairy free, yep. I'm very, very sensitive to dairy, corn, soy, so I avoid all of those. Oats as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, some of the things you would think are totally normal. Lettuce is a big sensitivity of mine. So is pineapple. I mean, those are healthy foods, but my body just does not react nicely to them, and it causes inflammation and symptoms.
Yeah, and if there's inflammation or stress on the body, in this case, so the diet that's not right for you, your body doesn't want to procreate, it wants to survive. And so it focuses on that. And we think of a stress being more of a mental emotional stress, but in this case, a food sensitivity and a gut infection, which we'll get into later, could be the cause of something going on in your body.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the other part of food that we didn't talk about, but it has a big impact, is blood sugar. So an unstable blood sugar is going to be a stress on the body. So if you're constantly, like, you eat something and your energy goes up, and then it's a lot of carbohydrates and your body doesn't tolerate it and just crashes right down, then you're going to get those symptoms of being shaky and irritable. And
Angry.
so it's hangry. Yes, right. Yeah. So I mean, that constant up and down of blood sugar, that is a stress on the body. And so by tuning into your body and listening to what it's telling you and trying to find a way to kind of keep that energy kind of stable all throughout the day, that's going to be really beneficial as well, because every time your blood sugar goes up and then it crashes down, when it crashes down, it triggers your adrenal glands to pump out cortisol so that you can get some sugar into your system for energy. And that's what we don't want. We don't want that constant up and down roller coaster.
Yeah, because then that affects your sex hormones. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And then the next one we have is sleep. And this is what we work with our clients like for long periods of time on sleep. And it's sort of one of these pillars that we all know, to get the 7 to 9 hours of sleep, but our busy lifestyles, and even getting people home from work so they can have their dinner, so they can have their quiet time, and then to get into bed so it's not midnight. And then you do the whole thing all over again. So it's really prioritizing sleep because it is so essential.
Yeah, and sleep is essential for so many things. I mean, when you're sleeping, you're resting and rejuvenating, you're allowing your body to do repair from the day. Sleep is also essential for detoxification. So our brain actually detoxifies when we're sleeping. And if we're not getting into that really deep restful sleep, it's not giving our brain that opportunity to detoxify the way it needs to. It's not giving our body the time it needs to repair and regenerate. The other thing that happens with sleep, if you're not getting enough of it, it affects your stress levels and it affects your blood sugar. So it's been said, depending on, who you talk to or what you read, but if you have a night of sleep that's like 6 hours or less, you're almost insulin resistant the next day. You're going to crave carbohydrates. You're going to crave sugar because your body's tired, depleted. It didn't get the rest it needed, and it does almost make you insulin resistant. So sleep is super, super important, because having proper sleep will have a huge effect on your moods. It'll allow you to be able to handle and tolerate stress better throughout the day. It'll help you make better food choices because you're not going to be constantly reaching for that thing that's going to give you energy, which is sugar, caffeine, whatever else you're looking
drinks.
for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, sleep is crucial. It's so important. It's almost, to me, in a way, it's one of the most important things to work on. And if you can get your sleep dialed in, then it's going to make it easier for you to do all the other lifestyle things that we recommend, which are going to have a big impact on your hormones.
Mm-hmm. And even we've had people, getting up 1 to 2, 5, 6 times a night to go to the bathroom. So even then you're having this disrupted sleep. And again, then it impacts your insulin levels. So it's being able to maybe, cut the water intake off at 6 p.m. We suggest, those blue light blockers that can, so if lots of people are doing screen time, which, we all do, TV or your phone or an ebook. So to get those little blue light blockers, which you can get from the hardware store, for like $5 or $10 with a little yellow thing on them, or you go to Amazon, you get the blue light blockers. We'll probably do an episode where we'll both be wearing them one of these days. But so that's to really work on that sleep hygiene.
Yeah, that's going to be really important. And like you said, that winding down, that's a really important process. We're so go, go, go all the time. And to expect your body to just, you come home, you eat, and then you jump into bed, that's not going to work either. Your body needs that time to unwind. And that time to unwind may not be staring at the TV, like a nice routine of essential oils and getting yourself ready for bed and reading a book. And eventually you kind of make this habit, and it trains your body to know, oh, okay, now it's time for me to go to sleep. You turn all the lights down. You're getting rid of that input of, okay, it's time to be awake. As soon as you turn the lights down, your melatonin starts to kick in. You start to feel sleepy, and you prepare your body for sleep.
Yeah, I normally do the have pretty good sleep hygiene with the essential oils, and I do a fiction book before bed. Yesterday I got caught up in a Bachelor in Paradise binging session, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it was like 12 o'clock when I was watching that stuff. but yeah, it's really being just prioritizing that, to know that it is super important, but it is one of these things where we're kind of like, oh, in our busy standard Western lifestyle. So the next one we have is exercise, which we either have people, is interesting, either people come to us, a lot of people come to us are super type A's, so they could be exercising out like a lot, so exercising a lot. Or we have people that are more like, okay, we need to get some movement going. Don't really seem to have people in the middle. It's more they're extreme or nothing. But really, for fertility, like we usually recommend brisk walking. We have fertility yoga, and we have a fertility yoga series you can check out. And then also high intensity interval training, which is good. But like I was just talking to someone and they were doing like 6 days a week of like high intensity interval training, and like overkill, right? It's sort of, so it's to basically to be able to see, how does your body feel the next day? Are you dragging your little butt around town because you're so tired, or do you feel good?
Yeah, and the exercise is meant to energize you. So it's meant to make you feel good, be a stress relief, and energize you, but also not to the extreme. I mean, if you're having somebody who is like training for a marathon and running marathons, I mean, that's a huge stress on the body. You're doing a lot of training, you're working your muscles, a lot of tearing down of your muscles. Or somebody who's just addicted to CrossFit and they're going to CrossFit 7 days a week. Like, you need to give your body rest. The movement is important. We're not telling you not to move, because that other end of the spectrum of not moving at all, that's not good either. Our bodies are innately meant to be moving. And if that means your movement is just walking for 30 minutes a day, or getting your Fitbit and setting a movement goal and just hitting that movement goal, you need to be moving. You need to be moving your body. Not only is that good for your stress levels, for your brain, for your body, it helps to move the lymph system. So the lymph system is kind of like this system of vessels that kind of goes side by side with the blood vessels. But the difference with the lymph system is that it doesn't have a heart to pump it. And the only way the lymph system moves is by moving. We need to move that. And the lymph system is kind of like, it's where the junk goes. So it's that elimination that gets the junk moving and out of the body and eliminated. And so if you're not moving, that's going to stay stagnant. You're going to kind of not feel great. So people will tend to feel things like achy. Their lymph nodes might be a little bit swollen because they've got a lot of stagnant stuff that's just sitting there, not moving. So movement is definitely important, but over exercising, we really need to look at that, because if it's just making you tired, not making you feel energized, it's a stress on the body.
Yeah, so really listening to your body, and not pushing it, but also neither does it give you permission to sit on the couch. For me, I like brisk walking. That's my thing. I walk the dog. I am definitely not one person that I'm like want to go out there and go crazy exercise. It's just not me. But I know I need to, because I have a sedentary job. Here we are sitting at the laptop all day long. I know I need to get out a couple of times a day with the dog for me, and just do some brisk walking. And it doesn't need to be fancy. And I've committed for myself, rain or shine. And I'm in Canada, so I'm in Toronto. So we get, right now in the summer, it's super hot, and the winter is super cold. So, but I've committed to get my butt out there, 365 days a year. And I don't know, I just find it a great stress reduction tool as well.
Yes, for sure. It's great for that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And then that leads into the next one, which is so stress reduction, or looking at your mental, emotional stressors. And we run a mind body fertility group. It's going to be launching actually in January. It's going to be launching in September. So it's and it basically looks at using mind body tools. So like visualization, like affirmations, meditation, mindfulness. Adding those into your daily routine. It doesn't mean you need to sit for 30 minutes and be all Zen-like. That might be maybe if you have a goal to kind of, look to add that in. But it's really, first of all, it's just to get clear on your triggers. We all have them. Like there's certain people that trigger us, certain situations, and to get clear on those, because the same 99% of thoughts you have today, you'll have the same ones again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Think that loop, right?
Yeah. And I mean, stress is kind of one of these, it's a huge topic because there's so many things that fall under stress, not only like the mental emotional stress that you talked about. And there's so many different ways that we can address that, mindfulness, meditation, yoga, therapy, hypnosis, EFT, emotional freedom technique. There's a lot of different ways to address it. The biggest thing when it comes to stress is being honest with yourself and feeling comfortable enough to acknowledge the stressors in your life and being able to talk about it in a safe way and be able to come up with strategies to cope with those. So that is a very, very big component. And unfortunately, our lives today are just very, very stressful. It's not like it used to be. I mean, we're constantly on the go. We've got so many demands, especially as women. We've got demands to, be the career woman, be the perfect wife, have the best upkept home. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot on us to do that. But also, I mean, some of the other aspects of stress that we don't think about are environmental stressors.
Mm-hmm.
So environmental stressors are things that we're exposed to in our environment every day. It doesn't matter where you live, there's going to be stuff in your environment. So the air in your home, the air that you breathe as you're walking to work or taking the bus or driving to work, the off-gassing of carpets, if your house was painted or your job has been repainted. I mean, there's chemicals everywhere. And not only that, there's the stuff that we're putting on our body. So, the makeup, the cream, the shampoo, the toothpaste, the deodorant. I mean, these are all types of environmental stressors that impact us. And so we talk a lot about ways that you can mitigate it. There's no way that you can avoid chemical toxins and environmental toxins. It's just not possible. But you can definitely make some great strides and changes to your lifestyle to switch out the products that you're using and switch out the water to cleaner water so that you can at least minimize the amount of chemicals you're being exposed to. So that's a big component of stress. Another one is physical or structural stress. So, I mean, we don't think a lot about that, but if you've had car accidents or sports injuries, or, even we've all had the situation where we've slept wrong and we woke up with a pinched neck or a pinched nerve. I mean, that is a stress. And so if you have something that's been ongoing like that for a long time, you really need to look at addressing it and finding ways to minimize that, because that constant pain and that constant misalignment is a stressor on the body. And so that's another thing that we talk about that I don't think enough people talk about is a stress. Mm-hmm. And then the last thing that we look at is kind of internal or physiological stressors. And that's things going on inside that we might not know about. So the things like those blood sugar imbalances, the food sensitivities that could be going on, leaky gut, That's something that unfortunately is more and more common nowadays. Stress can lead to a leaky gut. And so if you have a leaky gut, that's a stress. If you have an imbalance of gut bacteria. So we all have a lot of microbes and bacteria in our gut. It's normal. They need to be there. But if it's imbalanced, that is a stress. And when it becomes imbalanced, it invites those pathogens that aren't supposed to be there to kind of set up shop and start to overgrow. And so a lot of us have them and we don't even know about it. And that's creating a stress. So that's really where in the training that I did, we really specialize in looking at is kind of going underneath the hood, digging a little bit deeper and trying to find those areas where there is some physiological stress happening and figure out ways to help improve those areas.
Yeah, those gut infections. So looking at parasites, worms, bacterial infections, fungal infections, H. pylori, Epstein-Barr, like those sort of things where typically a conventional medicine doctor will or medical doctor will miss. So we dig deeper with those gut infections. And yeah, definitely also for back to the environmental toxins. Like for me this year, or I think it was last year, I got the Berkey, so BERKEY, which is a water filter. So it's taking out out the chlorine, the fluoride, the birth control pills, and all sorts of different toxins that are put in our water, and the water just tastes amazing. So investing in a good water filter is huge. But yeah, as far as the gut infections, you can definitely check out our podcast. We've got some episodes on there where it's podcast episode number 6, where we dig into the tools of functional medicine that we use in our couples coaching program. So you can check that out. But really, gut infections, I just think it's missed. There's a link to autoimmune that I think people are not digging further on that, and a link as to why you could be presenting with these different infertility diagnoses to be able to look at gut infections to see if there's something going on there.
Yeah, and we don't diagnose or treat anything. So we're not looking or using testing to make any sort of diagnosis. That's not what we do. But the testing is just to help us get some insights into what's going on with you. So what sorts of things are going on with you that could be creating an imbalance that could explain the symptoms that you're having that led to a diagnosis. So we aren't worried about what the diagnosis is that you have. I mean, you could come to us and have Hashimoto's or lupus or POF or PCOS. It doesn't matter what the diagnosis is. The way that we do things is always going to be the same. We're going to do some digging deeper. We're going to really work with you on all of the lifestyle things, the sleep, the movement, the looking at your environmental toxins, looking at what you're putting on your body and your skin, the foods that you're eating. All of those things are things that you can do to take your health back into your own hands. It empowers you to kind of take on this self-care model of, I'm going to start doing the things to make myself healthier, rather than just kind of relying on this sick care model of, I have these symptoms and now I'm going to go to the doctor, and rather than them asking me all these questions, they're just going to give me a diagnosis and do a treatment that doesn't get to the root of why that is happening in the first place. And I love this analogy. I've heard it so many times. I think I've heard it mostly from Maria Emmerich. But we take our dogs to the vet, or we take our cats to the vet, and there's something wrong with them. And the first thing they ask us is, what are you feeding them? Like, we never have a doctor ask you that question. And so it kind of makes you think and wonder, like, we need to take a step back here and not worry about all these diagnoses and really start thinking about all the different areas of life that impact our health and how can we make changes. And that's really what we do here. We coach you and guide you and educate you and give you this information so that you can feel empowered to make changes to improve your health beyond what your diagnosis tells you you should be experiencing.
Exactly. Yeah. And that healing roundtable from Dr. Oz, where you've got your OBGYN, your RE, your fertility coach, your nutritionist, your chiro, your physio, your masseuse, your acupuncturist. So it's not excluding anyone. We're not excluding conventional medicine. But really that you're in the center of it and you're the conductor of all these people. Because a lot of times we just go straight to the RE or straight to the OBGYN and we forget about all the rest of the things, or we even forget about what our body needs, and we give our power over to the person in the white coat, where we really know our body best. And it's really, we seek to educate and empower you so you can take charge of your fertility.
Yeah, and you can feel comfortable going to all of those individual people and asking the right questions, because you are the one. You have to ask the questions. You have to advocate for yourself. And so by educating you and giving you the information, you're able to then go and ask the questions and say, this is what I want you to look into. I'm not going to be satisfied with you just saying, this is your diagnosis and this is the pill you need to take. Like, you're going to start saying, well, why? Let's find out why. And that's really the goal, is to empower you to take on this role of self-care and advocating for yourself. I think that's what people really need to start doing so that they can see improvements.
Yeah, and it does take some time, and it's not a magic pill. So it's not this like magic cure. It's if you've been, having these symptoms your whole life, and all of a sudden now at the age of whatever you are, it doesn't just happen overnight, but in a very short period of time, you can see massive change. It's just really having a level of commitment and getting curious about all aspects kind of your life, and really, digging into that self-care.
Yeah, and being patient, because you're right. It took you years to get to this point. So to think that, 60 days, 90 days is going to fix everything, I mean, it's possible, but it's not realistic. Mm-hmm. And so just being patient with yourself and knowing that even us who are talking to you, I mean, this is what we do, but every one of us are still on our own journey. There's nobody in the healthcare industry, or industry for that matter, who are at the peak level of perfect health. There's always room for improvement. And the lives that we live, the environment that we live in today, we have constant assaults of different stressors, and we have to just be aware of them and mitigate them and do the best we can. I mean, there are still days that I struggle. I mean, I have celiac disease. My stomach is not in perfect condition. I still have leaky gut, and it's going to take years of commitment and patience, and it may never be perfect, but that's okay. It's a journey. And just knowing that is a journey, it actually makes it easier for you to go through it, knowing that you're going to be patient, but you'll see improvements, and there's things that you can do, and the power is in your own hands to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not about this perfect thing, or all of a sudden you'll arrive there. There's usually a little more work to do, but it is, working on yourself and investing in yourself, and taking charge of your own health. And ultimately your fertility and your ability to have a baby. So awesome. So, well, thanks everyone for joining us today on Fab Fertile TV. And until next time.
Thanks everyone.